2016, Module 3, Part 1. We're going to begin this module by looking at updating, locating, and deleting data in a database. So at this point, you should have created your Riverview database. In the first tool modules, we created 4 different tables in various ways, and we built our relationships between them. In order to do this module, you need to have one-to-many relationships created between all your tables that would match the relationships I have here. When we get to the queries, if you do not have these relationships built, then it will not work the same way for you. I'm going to go ahead and close the relationships. And again, to get to those relationships, you go to Database Tools and the Relationship button. You should see these 3 relationships. They need to say one-to-many on each of them. All right, so let's go ahead and start out by opening our owner table. Okay, the first thing we're going to look at is how to hide and unhide a field. So if I right-click on the state field, you'll notice what one of the options is to hide the field. So I'm going to hide that field. Then I'm going to also right-click on the zip code, and I'm going to hide that field. When the fields are hidden, it gives you sometimes more room on the screen to see the information. One thing to be careful of, though, is you would not want to add new records when the fields are hidden, because then you would not be entering the information in the appropriate cells. So we're going to start out by locating 2412, which is Taylor Johnson, and we're going to tab over to the address, and we're going to say this individual moved to 458 Rose Lane. And they changed email, so their new email is taylor.johnson@example.net. So you're just simply typing over the information if you're wanting to change the record. All right, let's go back up to our first record. So we're going to use this arrow to take us to the first record. And I'm going to right-click on any of the field names. And we're going to choose to unhide fields. You'll notice you have a checkbox. So you're able to check each box that you want to unhide. And once you're done unhiding, you can close them. Let's go ahead and close this table. Remember that when you are editing records, you need to make sure the pencil disappears before you close the table, because if the pencil is still present, your changes have not been saved. I'm going to go ahead and say yes to save the changes. And we're going to open up the visit table. So let's say we decided that the reason diagnosis on record 1024 currently says vaccinations, but it needs to say wellness exam. So we can just tab over to that and type in wellness exam. Notice if I were to close the table right now, the change would not be saved. But now that I have tabbed to the next record, the pencil goes away and I'm safe to close my table. Okay, let's look at how we could find records if there were a larger number of them. Okay, so we're going to go into our Find button. So let's say here they said we wanted to find a certain value. So we want to look for 1028. When we click Find Next, it finds the record that we are currently on. What if we changed it and said 1128 and click Find Next? It brings us down to that particular record, and then we could make any changes there that we needed to. Now, one thing to keep in mind is, let's say I was looking at the owner table. I'm going to go ahead and click Cancel on this Find and Replace, and I'm going to look up the owners. So let's say I had been instructed to find the record for Karen Music. So I'm going to click Find, and I'm going to type in, if I type in Karen Music, and I said look in the whole field, the whole document, it's going to tell me it cannot find that. And the reason it can't find it is because it's two different fields. You must search for one field. So you would have to decide, am I going to find more records that say Karen or that say music? And if I thought music was going to bring up fewer results, then it would get me to closer to the one I want. So I would type in music. And I would find next, and you can see that it found it. And then if you click Find Next again, it will look for any other ones. So make sure when you're doing your find that you do not try to combine more than one field and search for them both at the same time. You have to pick one or the other. So I'm going to go ahead and close the owner table. All right, now let's say I wanted to delete record 1128. So I'm going to click and highlight the row. And then notice here it says to delete in the records group. So I'm going to choose delete. And it says, nope, you cannot delete that because there are related records in the billing table. This is what we were talking about with Cascade deletes. If we had checked that box, it would not have given us that message. It would have just deleted all of it, the stuff in the billing table as well as in the visit table. But what you have to do in order to delete a record now is you have to look up the related records in the other table. To do that, click this plus sign next to the record. You then see that there were two invoices that are related to this particular visit. So if I come in here and delete this invoice, and then delete this second invoice, then there are no related records in my invoice table or my billing table. Then I can click the plus, and now it will let me delete the visit. Okay, so you always must check here for the related records and delete the related records prior to deleting the main record. So that concludes modifying the data, editing it, finding the data we're looking for using the find option, and then also deleting records. Now remember, if we want to add a new one, we come down to the first available row and we start typing. You can also click here, New, to bring you down to the new record, or you can click down here to this sunburst arrow, and that will also add new records. So that's how we add, edit, delete, and locate information within our table.